Hello and welcome. I'm Tobin and I'm just outside of the Willamette National Forest. Today I'll be shaving at the banks of the McKenzie River, a river that you may have seen before in my shave videos. Today I brought an oldie but a goodie with me, and we'll be using Barrister and Mann's Rome. It's been a couple of years since this one was out. It's come and gone a few times. It's currently unavailable. The scent notes in it are tobacco, thyme, grass, damp earth, and wood smoke. That's what's listed on the label. But if you look at the original sales page, or if you go to trythatsoap.com, which has basically a copy of that, it also mentions leather and I think some other things. It's definitely a very outdoorsy scent. One of the reasons why I love it. Back when it came out, I had bought a set of it, and then I gave that set away from a friend to a friend and bought myself another set. So long story short, it's good stuff, Maynard. I like it. This spot may be familiar to you. I have shaved here a few times, twice I believe. You can see the leaves are starting to fill in there where before we used to be able to see straight through. I'll do a 360 from this spot like I've done before, just so we can contrast and compare, you know, all that hibbity bibbity. I will once again be shaving from right here. Once again, I'll be shaving from this spot. The beautiful McKenzie behind me. Give me just a moment to hang up my tripod and my mirrors, and we'll get this party started. All right. Can't believe it's May 25th. It's already almost June. Once again, I'm standing right on the bank. Got both my mirrors hung and my tripod. Beautiful, beautiful late spring day. I believe the high today was 77. Let me get this thing hung up. Let's get to shaving. About to fall into the river. Steady now, steady now. What? All right. All right, all right. Hope you're all doing well. I'm doing much better today than I have been doing. Oh, before we get started, let me show you real quick. My shirt came. Yeah, fanboys unite. How y'all doing in there? Out there, over there. Doing pretty good. Feeling really good compared to how I was feeling Sunday, the last time we talked. Starting to beat this COVID. Once again, I'm using Rome. This was last out about 4 years ago. It was for their 5th anniversary. That puts about 2018. They started out in about 2013, I believe it was. We're using Rome soap and splash. Today's brush, got it soaking here in my bowl. Ever ready with the finest badger from West Coast Shaving. One of the reasons why I'm using Rome today is the other day I was doing some shopping on Amazon, excuse me, looking for razors, and came upon this guy. I was just looking at some different razors, and Qshave is who this razor is made by, and I was looking at a couple of their other razors. When I bought this razor, I already owned the Merkur Futur. I got probably 20 or 30 Merkurs. I love them. So this is a clone of the Futur. Crackhead. And I bought it just because it was like $10 or $12 or something like that. It was cheap. It's $15 now. It might have been $15 back then, but I feel like it was a little cheaper. So I bought it out of curiosity. It was back when all the clones started coming out. I think you can see a boat going down. There goes our first voyeur. Did they already go by the camera? No, they'll be in camera range right now. Here they come. Say howdy, y'all. There they are. A lot of fish in this river. Trout for the most part. You can pull out some bluegill. In a couple of months you might be able to get some salmon. But I digress. Let's get back to the razor here, because I'll get off talking about fish. So I already owned the Futur. Stern collapsible. And I bought it just because it was cheap, because I was curious, and I had seen, you know, in the forums, in different places, that people were buying these different clones from different manufacturers. Now there's even more of them. Like, I think even Vanderhagen has one now. Vanderhagen didn't have one back then that I'm aware of. I probably would have bought that. But I bought the Qshave off of Amazon, and I noticed, I put it on Instagram the other day, I noticed that I bought it 4 years ago, almost to the day. When I noticed it, it was the 23rd, and I bought it 4 years ago on May 26th, 2018. So I thought, what the hell? Now's the goodest time of any to pull out this cheap razor, talk about it a little bit, and thought, well, let's find a soap that is from around then too. I had a few that I thought were from around then, but I couldn't, be certain. But then I saw this, and I was like, oh man, that's gotta be perfect. Looked it up, and sure enough, Barrister and Mann was founded in 2013, and this was part of their 5-year anniversary. Bingo bongo. I'm starting to get COVID behind me. I'm running about 90%. Let me pause this real quick, guys. This soap had been out before, but I had never picked it up until that year. Trying to get this loaded a little more. There we go. It's a thirsty knot. Very thirsty knot. Nice. Cutting some corners, I guess, there. There we go, baby. I found that if I push up with this, sometimes it's hard, to get the brush down inside these nubs. But like if I push up on it, it kind of brings where I have the soap up to it. Before I talked about how I don't always collapse it all the way. Like I've tried doing it like this. I find that the nubs are just a little too tall. That's what I'm discovering with this. I wish the nubs were a little shorter. But you can whip up a killer lather. You just gotta, work with it. Like anything, it's the operator. So I never picked this up when it was out before. I grabbed it that year, fell in love with it immediately. I loved it so much that I gave it to a good friend of mine at work. I don't even know if he still shaves with it at all. I was just trying to turn him on to wet shaving, you know, spread the gospel, share the gospel. Should ask him sometime. He might still have it just laying around. I think he went back to using cartridges. I'm pretty sure he did. We talked about it once a couple years ago, and he's never brought it up. So since he hasn't brought it up, I imagine that he is using carts again, which is cool. Not for everybody. One day maybe he'll come around. The soap, Will was after like a Wild West type theme, an homage, an inspiration of like the American cattle rancher and their individualism. So like this is actually made with real pipe tobacco absolute. That's one of the first notes I get, is pipe tobacco, and it smells like pipe tobacco, y'all. And giddy up. Stop with the dad jokes. Leave that up to Brandon. Brandon, dad jokes are yours, buddy. I'll leave him alone for a couple of minutes. And so he was going for like a Old West, out on the open range, cattle rancher type fragrance. And I think he nailed it, from the pipe smoke, the pipe tobacco, to the leather. I honestly don't pick up the thyme at all. I think there's kind of like a spiciness to it. I get the musk, definitely get the damp earth. If you've ever smelled like Liza or Hallows, I'm trying to think of some others, it has that wet earthiness to it. I don't know how else to describe it, but it smells like wet, healthy soil. When you adjust these guys here, definitely just hold it like this if you never used one before. I'm gonna go start out with 3.5. It goes up to 6. I haven't probably used this in 3 or 4 years. And then you got the leather in this guy, and it just totally reminds me of being out on a cattle farm. My father-in-law owns a whole bunch of head of cattle. I don't know how many he has now. He's had a bunch. He's a good old boy, cowboy, big time. Hat, the boots, everything. Lives in Central Oregon, in a town called Christmas Valley, like the holiday. Christmas Valley. I don't know why they named it that, because it's out in the middle of nowhere. One of those places that doesn't even have a stoplight. It has one stop sign, and then you got to travel, you know, like 20-30 miles just to get the kids to school. It's BFE, Oregon. That felt really good with the Shark Platinum on 3.5. This razor is still available on Amazon for $15. If you are curious, I definitely recommend it. It's not as good as the Merkur. The Merkur is definitely a far better razor. Hands down, it's a better razor. Built better, heavier, better metals, tighter tolerances. Everything about the Merkur is better. But for $15, I don't think you can go wrong with this clone by Qshave. I really don't. I highly recommend it. It's not going to be a daily driver for most guys, but for a travel razor that you don't have to worry about losing, that type of deal. Or, you know, if you ever wanted to try the Merkur without spending all that money, recommend it. And the tolerances aren't bad on it. It's just not as good, not as tight. It's got good tolerances, don't get me wrong. It's a good razor. It really is. It's got, you know, $15 price tag made in China versus what, $80 price tag made in Germany. So I definitely believe you pay for what you get, or you get what you pay for. Can't tell you how many times I've seen that play out in this hobby. I've even seen it play out with my own razor sales. Oh, something someone asked me the other day. I was talking with them. I think it's Fred Qshaves. He and I were talking. He bought that Fat Boy from me. Thanks again, Fred. I'm glad it finally made it there. I tried to get it to you before your birthday. I won't rehash all that because you and I have talked about it a lot, but I restored a Fat Boy for Fred Qshaves in Norway. And he, if you want to see it, check out his YouTube or his Instagram. I'll put a link in the description. Fred's good people, and he does good, honest reviews. But I believe he had gotten a couple of shaves in. Maybe it was just one. I think it was two though, when he and I were having the conversation, and he was asking me about the Fat Boy versus the Slim, and we were talking about tolerances and stuff. And I believe, don't quote me, I think, if you see this, Fred, maybe put it in the comments below. But your Slim was a gift from your grandfather or something like that, or it was your grandfather's. Something that I'm very particular about when I restore a razor. And it's not easy. Ask anybody who does it. I've actually sent some razors back to a couple different companies because the gap wasn't exactly how I wanted it. Not for what I paid. But when it comes to these vintage twist opens, Schick, Gillette, doesn't matter. There's so much that can go wrong with the blade gap being perfectly aligned. And I mean, to where the bottom is straight and then the doors are straight. And it's like, it's not the actual door that usually gets bent. It's the bottom plate, the T-bar. It can even be like an end cap. An end cap can get dropped, right? You drop it or someone else drops it, and it lands on that end cap, and you can't really see it looking at it. You know, a trained eye, or if you look at it long enough, you'll see it, right? But there's so many different little things that can alter a blade gap on these vintage twist opens. And I've said this before, all it takes is like a fraction of a millimeter to take it from a great shave down to a good shave, and then you take it a couple of fractions of a millimeter and it's no longer a good shave. It's just something that's going to slice you open when you least expect it. And that's something I've learned the hard way. And so the blade gap on the standard Slim and on the standard Fat Boy are slightly different. I'll put those right up here. Fat Boy, Slim, okay? But they're not so different, and people will disagree with me. If you disagree, that's fine. But the differences between the standard Slim and the standard Fat Boy are trivial. It's they're trivial. You got like, don't quote me, you know, you got like setting 1 is 0.011 on the slim, and then I think it's like 0.014 on the fat boy. That's not something you can see with your eye. That takes a device, whether it's an OEM gauge or whatever. You know, you can't just look at it and be like, oh yeah, you know, that's blah blah blah, 3/100ths of a millimeter. I don't know, maybe you can, I can't. That's beyond my eyeballs. But we were talking, because he was getting a phenomenal shave in comparison to his slim, and I'm a fan of the slim. I'm a fan of the fat boy too, right? But I think dollar for dollar, the slim is a better razor. Just because, in my opinion, you can get a great shave from both of them. In my opinion, you can get an identical shave from both of them. The blade angle and the exposure are the same. There's just slight differences with the gaps. The fat boy, of course, has a shorter handle and a thicker head. But when it comes to measurements, angle and exposure are the same. And I'm going to turn this up a notch, guys. If I recall correctly too, Fred had never had that razor worked on. And so, you know, you got years and years of it, potential for it getting hurt. We'll go up to 4.5. And so he was, you know, texting me, telling me, you know, that the fat boy was amazing and was this, that, and the other thing. And we just got to talking. It just reminded me of, you know, just now when I was looking at this guy and thinking about it, that I can't tell you how critical it is that these things be perfect. A lot of times too, I've heard guys talk negatively about how their flare tip shaves or their red tip or their fat boy, and you know, hear guys say, oh, I can't get a good shave with it, you know, it's just, these things are garbage. And I'm not kidding. More times than I can count, I've had a fella send me photos of his razor, and even in the pictures I can see that it's not straight, that one thing or another has, you know, it's no longer vertical, no, horizontal. It's no longer horizontal, it's sloped a little bit. And a lot of guys, you know, who haven't looked at it a lot, they can't see it. It's not something that 6 years ago I would have been able to pick up, but it is something now today that I can look at a razor and immediately see it. Almost always, not every time. But that these guys will fault the razor, not knowing that there's something wrong with it, and not knowing how critical it is that the blade gap needs to be straight. And you know, it's obvious when you say it out loud, but what's not obvious is the fractions of a millimeter. You know, talking hundredths of a millimeter, or was it a thousandths, right? You got, you know, thousandths. It'd be thousandths, right? Third grade math skills, I'm going with thousandths of a millimeter. And so you wouldn't think necessarily that that would be a game changer or a deal breaker, but it is. You should be able to get a good shave with just about any vintage Gillette, in my opinion. You know, there's no mistake, guys, that these razors sold tens of millions of times over. You know, can't even wrap my head around the number of techs that have been sold, or the number of, you know, flare tips. Millions and millions and millions, maybe tens of millions. You don't sell millions of razors unless it works. You know, you get to talking with Matt Pisarcik or what's their names at Rockwell, and you ask them, you know, how many 6Cs or 6Ss or how many Envoys have you sold? And whatever number they tell you, it's impressive. And today's market, where people are using cartridges, where people are using electrics, and it's, you know, so competitive. Back in the day, there wasn't a lot of companies making razors, and today we're in the exact opposite. Back in the day, you only had a couple companies making razors, but you had dozens, if not hundreds, literally. All right, ran out of record time there. I thought I had plenty. Bought myself 21 more minutes. I can wrap this up in 21 minutes. Stop my rambling. But so what I was saying was, back in the day, you had only a couple companies making razors, and you had hundreds, if not thousands, of different blade manufacturers across the planet. Today, we only have a very small handful of blade manufacturers. Lord, Gillette, American Razor Company, or what, brain fart, American Safe, no, whoever it is that makes Persona. You know. Stop it. What the hell is their name? So anyways, I got a lot on my mind. Sometimes I didn't go into too, that we're dealing with some identity theft right now. Freaking nightmare. So with today's market, we have lots of people selling razors and only a couple of razor manufacturers. So no matter how many Rockwells have been sold, it's an impressive number. But it's still nowhere near the tens of millions of flare tips that were sold in Europe and North America. You know, the Rocket is still the flare tip. It's the exact same razor. Different paint job. It's the same razor. I got both of them. Trust me. I know. People are like, oh no, dude, it's different. Yeah. No. I worked on them. They're the same. $15, you can't go wrong with this razor. I do recommend it if you're in that kind of market for a razor. Let me grab my towel and we'll clean up. All right, when I get home, I'm gonna upload the photos of that Rockwell T2 that we're giving away courtesy of Sean, Sulfur Shaves. That'll be a YouTube giveaway. So if you don't know my YouTube, or what the hell did I just say? On my Instagram. We're gonna give the Rockwell T2 away on my Instagram, courtesy of Sean. My Instagram, my eBay, and my YouTube all have the same username, Tobin's Throwbacks with an underscore, all spelt exactly the same. So I've already got the photos taken. I just need to do it when I get there. I'll do the, we'll kick off the Shave It, Shaveco soap giveaway this weekend. The other day, really yesterday, it all came to a head. And we're getting over COVID. And long story short, my wife has been a victim of identity theft. We lost $495 and $475 to a gas station in Arizona. We received a letter in the mail. We live in Oregon State. Go Ducks. Did I flip you off again? Well, if you're a Duck fan, I can't talk. Just shut up, Toby. Shut up. We live in Oregon. We received a letter in the mail, she did, from the state of Kentucky Unemployment Division, telling my wife that her unemployment benefits have been denied. Two things. One, we don't live in Kentucky. And 2, woo, don't fall in the river. 2, we don't qualify. She doesn't qualify for unemployment. My wife works in healthcare, and even when all of us weren't working, when the pandemic first hit, my wife never missed a day of work. They didn't close down the hospital. That's where she works. She works in healthcare. So she never missed any work. If anything, she got extra hours. Oh gosh, stuff smells so good. Masculine. One word, masculine. And then we found out that they tried opening up a bank account in the state of New York with some bank that we never even heard of. It's a legit bank. We've since looked it up. But they tried opening up a bank account in her maiden name. We've been married over 15 years, together longer than that, but she hasn't used her maiden name anywhere in over 15 years. And it's just caused a headache with different places. I won't go into all of it, but it's first world problems, right? Still got my health. Still got my family. Oh, so much to be thankful for. It's something that'll work itself out, but it's hella stressful in the meantime. It's Wednesday. Hope you all have a great Thursday and Friday. Just slap this thing together and get it loaded up. And I'll get that choo-choo going too. And I'll smoke a little smoke. No, I won't smoke any smoke. Just say no, kids. Seriously, I'm drug free. Yes, I am. No, yes, I am. Stop the insanity. Take care. Until next time, y'all. Take care of yourself.